We're going to continue investigating the different forces that affect motion, and we're going to focus on normal force today. It says to explain that normal force exists between two solid objects when their surfaces are pressed together due to other forces acting on one or both objects. State that a normal force is always a push directed at right angles from the surface of the interacting objects. So anytime you have two solid objects, we're looking at a block of wood here and my whiteboard table, a normal force exists between these two objects. Now, we know that there are other forces acting on this object. We know that gravity is pulling down on that wooden block, otherwise it would just be floating around. And the table is also pushing back up against the block. The fact that that table is pushing up against the block is what normal force is. So anytime those two solid objects are in contact, it's experiencing a normal force. So another example of that would be this chair. This chair has gravity pulling down on it toward the center of the earth, but then the floor here is pushing back up against the chair. The fact that the floor is pushing up against the chair says that a normal force exists. So literally anything that is just sitting on a surface is experiencing a normal force. So all of these objects around the room in contact with these surfaces are experiencing a normal force. Now, it says that normal force is always acting as a push at a right angle of the surface that it's in contact with. So let me kind of draw you a picture of what that looks like. If we're talking about our block here, here's my table, and here's my block resting on my table. Well, my block we know is experiencing gravity, pulling down, and it's also having the table push up against it, which is our normal force. So you'll notice that if I just extend my vector down here to the surface, I can draw a 90-degree angle or a right angle to show that it's at a 90-degree angle of the surface. So this is a push up from the table on the block at a right angle. Now, if we have maybe a more unusual surface, let's say a ramp, and we have the block resting on a ramp, gravity is still going to be pulling straight down on that block, just as it always does. Gravity is not going to change. The normal, however, is going to be at a 90-degree angle from the surface that it's resting on. So I can write a 90-degree angle or right angle, and it's going to be pushing up from that ramp on that block. That's my normal force. No matter how your surface is oriented, your normal force is always going to be at a 90-degree angle pushing against that surface.